Hello, digital warriors, and welcome back to the Forge of Unicorn podcast. Today, I am really excited because we have a special guest that is Umar Munshi. He's a visionary leader at the forefront of ethical tech investment and behavioral evolution. He's managing partner at Hasan Venture Capital, and Umar is pioneering a new model where Halal ethical investing grounded in Islamic principle of fairness, real world value and shared prosperity intersect with software craftsmanship and innovation, a very hot topic in the AI era. In this episode, we will explore how deep cultural shift and technological excellence drive real transformation, especially in a sector, venture capital and portfolio company management, that is heavily impacted with the technical disruption of AI nowadays. A field where ethics and efficiency they can go together, as we will see today with Umar. Without further ado, Umar, welcome to the Forge of Unicorns.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to a conversation.
Trust me, it's a pleasure, Umar. Your kind of personality and firma is something that I was striving to have in my podcast because it's not common. But before jumping in the nitty-gritty details why I love you and your company, let's please introduce yourself to our audience. Umar, the stage is yours.
Right. So my name is Umar Munshi. In my early 40s right now, getting older. I was born and grew up in Singapore. Although for most of my adult life, I've been outside of Singapore. In terms of background, I started doing business when I was 18, quite young. And I've been an entrepreneur ever since. Right? So my whole life, I've been an entrepreneur. Um, and in that period, most of it, or I would say half of it was in Indonesia in my earlier years. And over the past 8 years, I've been based in Kuala Lumpur. Um, in the past 12 years, I've been focused on fintech and ethical investment and halal investment. Because I started 12 years ago, I somehow became somewhat of a pioneer in the niche of fintech for Islamic finance, right? And so my company, which is called ETHIS, ETHIS, we have operated various different fintech investment platforms in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in Turkey, and today we also have other businesses. And the one that I believe we'll be talking more about today is on HasanVC, which is a new brand that we introduced about a year ago that focuses on Camel Startups, which we'll talk about in more detail today.
A concept that I for sure want to explore better. Why camel and not unicorns? I have my own ideas about that, but let's jump immediately with this. Why camel? Of course, because it's more funny as a name, somebody will think, but it's not that the reason, isn't it, Umar?
Yeah, I mean, funny is always good. Making people smile is always great.
Yes, indeed.
And that's the general reaction we get when we say a camel startup, right? Um, I guess one easy way to think about it is, today, even in Silicon Valley, there's this term moving around of cockroach startups, right? Right. So in the past, it's all about unicorns. Now it's about cockroaches. Unicorn basically is hard to find. Cockroach is something that doesn't die, right? It's difficult to die.
Yes.
Now, I mean, everybody knows that cockroaches will always be around. Um, Now, Camel is, I guess, a little bit similar to the idea of a cockroach startup, where, in a sense, it's a survivor kind of animal, right? Because camels, they can survive in a desert where no other mammals can, right? And I can talk about camels for a long time. Do you want me to give a bit of a description of some of the characteristics of camels, and then a related? Yeah. All right. I'll just touch on a few because camels are so incredible but maybe in today's modern world, we don't really know or appreciate how incredible they are. One example is camels, their nostrils can actually extract water from the air when they breathe, right? Because there's so little water around, right? So there's a very unique physical attribute that other animals don't have, right? Uh, Camels have double eyelids, because of sandstorms. Camels store, as you know, fat in their body, in their humps, so that they can gain access to that energy when needed. So camels are resilient. They survive in the toughest of environments, and that is one of the characteristics that we look for in a startup. A startup that can go through difficulty, that can survive the harshest conditions. And the second part is, even with the camel being so resilient, it can still go for opportunities. It can run really fast, and when there's water, it can drink a crazy amount of water in a short period of time, right? So that's where we're looking for startups that can catch opportunities when they come, right? When the timing is there, when the wave is there, when the client is there, when the sentiment is there, right? Because it's all about timing. If anything, I learned in my 20 over years as a founder, timing is so important, right? And so you need to be able to survive until the time comes for you to scale up quickly.
Yes, and I love your analogy. I love it a lot more than the cockroach because the cockroach, like the rats, are indeed two animals that survive even to the nuclear bomb, but they are animals that they evoke some strange feeling to me. I don't know the others, but probably I love more the camels. And indeed, I was impressed the first time I jumped on a camel, especially because I have a lot of background riding horses, and I wasn't expecting the camels with so a gorgeous experience as it was. And indeed, I was surprised when they started to teach me about how strong and how particular and peculiar is the camel. That is a perfect analogy to the kind of organization we want nowadays, especially with this crazy AI, where market is selling that AI has consciousness, and even the Nobel Prize and father of AI is telling us, hey guys, be careful because AI yet doesn't have consciousness. So there is something in the market that is probably inflating this ratio of startups that are able to survive. And the analogy of camels, unicorns is also reminding me another difference. Unicorns are magical animals, mythological animals with magic power. And indeed, it seems to be magic to move an organization to become a unicorn. I guess it's not magic for you moving an organization to become a camel because you have in your venture capital a venture studio where you engineer camels organization, isn't it?
Yeah. So the way we work is we are very early stage and an ideation stage as well. So we have programs that support our investment and investment thesis, right? So we have virtual accelerator programs. We've run 2 cycles successfully. There were about 75 startups that went through our 2 programs. And from there, we invested in about 20 of them, right? So that's something that we have been doing and will continue to do. But what you touched on is the venture studio, where in our accelerator, early stage accelerator, we look for companies that are at level 1 and we bring them to level 2, right? Whereas for venture studio, we are starting at 0, from 0 to 1, right? So we are looking for co-founders. We will do research together. We'll validate ideas together, solutions together, and then we'll start building. Yeah. And on your point about being magical, I think the mindset personally, right? I was a startup founder. I still consider myself a startup founder, although I'm on the VC side right now. But most of my life, I've been a founder, right? And I was also sucked into the narrative of, grow at all costs, raise to burn to reach another level so you can raise again. And, the cycle continues until either you make it big or you burst, right? You blow up, meaning you become super big, or you blow up and you disappear, right? There's no in between. But I think that mindset is may not be good, it may not be suitable, and definitely, in my view, not suitable for emerging markets and not suitable for the world today.
Yes, I guess you touch a point that is really a hot topic nowadays because it's all or nothing. It's nothing in the middle. And I love your analogy and the venture studio that you have created and designed around the Camel concept because it's not magical. It's hard work, discipline, cooperation, putting the skin in the game together. That is a different formula from a lot of venture studios and private equity. And let's go back to what you say because it's really intriguing. So the success ratio with the latest study of startups that are able to survive in the AI era is after 3 years, less than 10% they can move after the 3 years milestone. That is a gigantic drop. It means that 90% of these organizations are not able to survive even 3 years. So if this is the situation, and on the other side, we can put the research about how many unicorns are actually available 2025 as success ratio, we have that 2.5% of organization can arrive to become unicorns. And after 1 year, half of them, they are not able to sustain the hyper growth as a unicorn. That reduces the scenario that roughly 1.5% of organizations are able to become and stay unicorns. For an environment of investors where 98% of investment produce almost debt or growth that exactly returning the return of investment that you have just invested in the picture, it's obvious that the market aggressiveness as investor to get all the pennies from a unicorn is so high that the organizations start to become ethically dysfunctional, let's say in this way, to be polite. Because I saw and I heard a lot of stories of investors that they are telling a narrative and other stories from founders instead that they are telling a completely different story where the money went in one pocket, not in the two pockets as it should be between investors and founders. This, for me, is one landscape that is really dangerous, especially when we put in the mixture the technology disruption of AI. In a venture studio like what you have, I love the work that you are doing with the founders since the beginning. So at the commence of the discovery process, you start to work with them. To me, it looks completely different than what a lot of organizations, a lot of founders, they are experiencing, especially in the Western side of the world. Is this a key peculiarity of your model, Yumar?
So you touched on a few important points, right? The VC model, as you said, is make or break, all or nothing. You bet on many, and you need the power law, right? That's what they like to term it. The power law will give you the returns where 2%, 3%, and even less. One out of your portfolio companies or two of your portfolio companies will make all the money for the fund, right? And I one thing to note is, in my understanding and my research, is that is the historical reality of VC in Silicon Valley. The original VCs, the pioneer VCs, they all made their money that way, right? By having one or two or three outsized outcomes, right? So it's difficult to argue against it because that is based on facts, based on history. But in my view, maybe at that time, that mindset would still be okay. But when it scales up and becomes a whole big industry, as you pointed out, I wouldn't say forces, but it pushes founders to look for shortcuts. Right? It pushes founders to focus on hype over substance, on growth instead of the business model itself, right? On revenue instead of profit. So and the line between what's ethical and what's not so ethical becomes blurred. Um, And you also pointed out about AI in this world where AI can supercharge a lot of things. Um, it's dangerous when you have a fast car. It's dangerous, especially if you're not ethical, if you're not looking around, caring about other people, safety of other people. When you have a supercharged car and you don't care about other people, it's going to be even more dangerous. Okay, so in my view, in our view, I think similar as your view, the component of ethics is very important, and so the approach of the venture studio is about us being your partner, right? We are not an investor that is putting in money to push you to your max and see whether you break, right? If you don't break, then we all become rich. If you break, then too bad for you. I'm hoping the other guy doesn't break, right? So I don't feel that is a good, healthy relationship, you know. And as you may know, also, especially in the later stages, the founders and investors tend to be against each other, right? Because the founder may not be the having the right same mindset as the investors, at that stage, right? So yeah, that's really what we are all about at HasanVC. We are a people-powered VC fund. We focus on people. In fact, our LPs are people, are angel investors. Right now, it's an angel fund. So it's literally people putting money in our fund and our fund supporting people. And we, as people, partnering with these founders, right? So although we are an institution, although we are a VC fund, although we are set up as a fund, we have licenses and all that, but that is just the frame, the boat that we are in, right? But when we interact with people, it's all about the human aspect and the human element.
That is what we observe with all the research in the last 2 decades, the key secret of every elite organization. Because, as you said, an evolution on financial indicators only arrives always to a break even. And the break even is when the people from one side and the other, they have different target. The investor, they want more money. The founder, it want to stake to the roots of his baby, the company that he was envisioning at the beginning. And when these are diverging, there is the breaking event. Breaking event where typically the investor and the founder, they are fighting on the equities. And the company then suffer. The people inside the company is suffering. A company instead that is human-centric and has the purpose as core tenets of the organization, and the purpose is creating an impact as an organization, these are the most successful. What I call typically is the paradigm of a purpose-driven organization, something that I discussed in a previous podcast with some friends, Leandro Lopez, and this is a very powerful element that typically we understood is the root of every successful organization. The other aspect that I love in your discussion is we work as human-centric organization all together. What I observe from the field is that working together for a lot of organizations means, okay guys, let's embrace this blueprint. And typically, blueprint is against the concept of human-centric because it's a set of rules that you have to apply blindly. I believe that your blueprint is a bit different because you are human-centric as also an investor. Isn't this way, Omar?
Yeah, so I think it really, really starts with the intention. I mean, the blueprint is to fulfill, targets, KPIs, objectives, right? But we focus more on the intentionality of it, where we need to know why we're doing it, right? Not just what we want to do, not just the numbers you want to hit, but why do we want to hit those numbers? Why do you want to build a business in the first place? Why do we exist? You know, the very basic question, right? Why do we even exist? So the way we look at it here is, earlier we talked about the camel, right? That's more on the I guess in a sense the commercial aspect. but not just commercial, about being resilient and being able to catch opportunities as they come, but also compared to a unicorn. I know this podcast, unicorn is part of your title,
It's
but
provocative.
um, yeah, yeah, I get that. But for us, a camel is an animal that really serves humans. It gives so much to humans, from, of course, for transport and so on, and also meat itself, right? So camels have brought a lot of value to humanity, and they are prized animals, right, in the past. So similarly here, it's about the human element, and when we talk to humans, it's really about as I mentioned at the start, the intention. So why are we doing it, and how we, on a broad level, share or help our founders to nurture a mindset where we are here to bring benefit to others. We are here to bring benefit to the world. We are here to bring benefit to humanity, right? The name, our name Hasan, is an Arabic word, or it's a common name as well. Hasan means good, right? The word Hasan, right? So we are here to do good, right? And we're not a charity. It's very clear we are a venture capital entity, right? We're a startup focused entity. We're not here to do charity. We're not here, to do humanitarian work. Of course, that can be part of it. We are here to build startups, to innovate, to adopt and develop technology with the objective of creating good, right? So that is the paradigm or the foundational mindset that we try to spread and nurture in our founders and within ourselves, of course, first of all.
That indeed is the key leverage to have organizations that are outcome driven with ethical purposes. And so I believe that this is an important factor because what you said, we start with the simple question why. So, why, to my awareness, is, and it was, the key element to develop the philosophy in the early stages. Also, is a gorgeous book by Simon Sinek, Start with Why, that helps us to understand that in theory, when we do something, so the behavior of doing something has to be sustained from a ethical and a philosophical why behind. In theory, more than why. There are techniques in coaching that the reason of the real why it should be after 5 levels of asking why. So the root of why we behave in a certain way is really deep in our souls, heart, and minds. Organizing a company with this approach is really the key of elite organization. And I am happy that with you we have confirmed this peculiar trait because a lot of organizations instead are board led by a CFO that is ruling the company by spreadsheet. The meme that we see out there that we have a gigantic architecture of the company where you have DevOps, Agile, AI, and then you have a tiny pillar with inside of it Excel to do accounting. So these kind of organizations are the normality out there, unfortunately. And I have done some time ago also a long discussion about which are the repercussions of having a company that is CFO driven. The CFO is putting software departments under, or technology departments under budget cap. So you kill innovation. And how an organization ruled by a CFO that is only focused money driven and a board that is sustaining these behaviors can really innovate and create good. Isn't that no similar?
Yeah. Um, what you touched on is a very important point, I feel, especially in the AI world today. Because when you look at AI, at the potential or the impact of AI on enterprises or any other business, for a CFO, I assume a lot of CFOs will look at it as a cost-cutting measure, right? AI helps optimize. AI helps to reduce costs, reduce headcount, reduce manpower, increase productivity, right? So they're looking at it from a cost perspective, which is, I guess, relevant, right? It is definitely relevant. AI does bring that value, but you're really missing the big picture, right? Because while AI can and does increase efficiency, the key value of AI is in the upside, right? Is what AI can potentially unlock, what kind of products that previously were just not possible, or we just didn't think about it because it was deemed to be impossible. With AI, it can be done, right? So, uh, yeah, the mindset of having a CFO driven entity in the AI world, I think is very dangerous, because if your competitors are able to look at the upside instead of just protecting the downside, then they will start adopting AI in a way that treats AI as an asset that can bring the firm to another level.
You touch one point that is really close to my heart here, because what I'm observing on the field is this indeed. CFO driven organizations, they are doing claiming, very tough claiming, that they can reduce the labor force of 96%. I don't want to name big brands that did this from the CEO point of view, was out there telling, hey guys, we will reduce the back office of 96%. And saying that you reduce the back office of 96% is spreading around a very dangerous emotions of people will be laid off from their organization. And indeed, in the last years after COVID and the commence of the AI revolution, millions of people, they lost the job. And we can look at the chart in IT. It's the first time ever IT, instead of growing, was collapsing under the claims of this marketing, very unethical marketing on AI replacing labor force. Then this spread from back office to replacing humans everywhere. And there are AI organizations that nowadays they are claiming that they can do everything with AI. But they are the same that are paying employees, engineers, millions a year to develop this technology to go in the other companies and replace humans. What we found instead is that AI should be used as exoskeletons that enhance the human potential to a different level. And this is the real power when you have organizations that are ethical, because human are the center and you provide in the right culture, in the right safe space, a enhancement of their potential, getting rid of the chores that can be automated by AI and freeing up time, cognitive power, and creativity so that the organization can create more innovation. Is this also the formula that you have found with all the organizations you are working?
Yeah, I think it is a very tricky topic, right? Because the prevalent mindset, and even for us, even though we strive to be as ethical as we can, and to be human centric, but the commercial pressure will always be there. It's a matter of how do you find the balance? How do you find the balance in the commercial pressure and also the deeper reason for existing, right? As I mentioned, to do good, to spread good. So making money is good, but if that is at the expense of all your staff, right? You have to sack everyone. Then is that necessarily doing good? So the balance is a tricky balance. I mean, there are many opinions. I believe some of the more positive opinions would be that AI will increase productivity so much that everybody will get richer, everyone will benefit. We can, have things like universal basic income and stuff like that, right? So there's that kind of sort of utopian worldview of the future with AI. And then, of course, in the short term, they say you'll have to bear the pain until we reach that point, right? Because in the short term, a lot of people will lose their jobs before the world gets rich enough to care for everybody, right? I hope that will happen. The part of caring for everybody, but the way the world is today, the capitalist world, is proven itself again and again and again, from the military complex that we are seeing in action right now to the financial system, right? It's all created and rigged to just make the rich richer, right? As long as the masses don't vote the leaders out, they will push the maximum, right? Because that's the combination of capitalism and democracy. So I feel that is dangerous, and history has shown that it doesn't work, right? When you just focus on making money with the expectation or assumption that eventually we'll have so much money that we will love everybody and help everybody, it doesn't. It has not worked out that way much, right? So going back to my point on balance, the compassion side I think is very critical, and it goes back to the idea of why do you start a company in the first place, right? If it's only to make money, then there's not much else to talk about, right? It's just a money making machine. If you don't need people, you won't hire people. If you can train your AI to replace people, then that's what you'll do, right? And while I'm sure all startups, all companies to some extent will adopt that, it goes back to the balance, right? Who are you serving? So for me, uh, our founders, the employees, these are all stakeholders. They're all people, right? They are there because they want to contribute to something, right? So the entire framework revolves around the concept of doing good, and that for this to work well, it needs to be present and prevalent at every level, right? The founders, their employees, their clients, their partners. So that's where we also try our best to pull together our community, right? Which is made out of two parts. One is the investors, the angel investors, right, who join our angel group and invest in the fund, and then the founders and their team and their people, right? So we try to pull these two parts together so that the people know each other, right? So that even if commercially the better decision in the short term is to retrench workers and replace them with AI agents, even though that may be commercially the best thing to do. But when we think about the people, then we may approach it differently. That means maybe we won't hire so much, but we will train the people to work with the AI, because now the assumption is AI is perfect, AI can do so many things, AI is brilliant, is magic and all that, right? But in reality, AI is not there. Although people are saying it's proving so fast, it's a matter of time before it becomes superhuman, right? But I feel that the human element will always need to be there, and so we need to find a way to. I think what you pointed out is to combine the humanity and humans in terms of our unique capabilities, right? Which includes compassion, morality, and ethics with AI, right? So that both can come together in a way that brings benefit to humanity.
Yes, and this is also a good point because it recalled me when my grandma she told me that looking for money is intrinsically creating a pact with the devil that you will regret sooner, because when you will behave in a certain way, when you go to sleep and you look at your face in the mirror, you will regret what you have done during the day. And I see AI tempting a lot of organizations to go in this path that is more capitalist than socialist. So I agree with you that is indeed an utopia to have AI that will be the equalizer on a new social, more social world.
Whether just to go a little bit deeper. Um, so we as a halal entity, we serve everybody, right? Any faiths, any backgrounds, everyone, right? We don't discriminate.
We are all
But
humans.
our all humans, yeah, all humans. But our own, my own, and our team's foundational worldview, the founders' worldview, is based on Islam, right? Islamic principles, right? So there is a faith element for us. But what we see is this faith that helps guide our mindset, that shapes our mindset, is the same as your view as well, in that sense, right? So it's for humanity, right? One way we see life is just a pit stop, it's just a temporary place where you collect supplies, and then you continue on to the next world, right? Um, my mom passed away about less than 2 weeks ago, right?
Oh, sorry
So
for that, Umar.
it was a very very tough period. But how I get myself to feel positive about it is because I know that she equipped herself very well while she was here, and she's ready to go on to the next world. You know, she's. I mean, of course, I'm sad. It's my mom, right? Everybody will be sad when your mom passed away, but I know that my mom did what a lot to prepare herself for the next one. So when we talk about business in that paradigm, in that mindset, that we are here to build a business to collect and do as much good as we can before we die, right? Before we move on, and then we go to, from the Islamic faith point of view, we go to the next world, the grave, before we go to the heaven or hell, right? Uh, at the same time, we also want to build something that will continue to do good, even though we're not here, right? The concept of legacy, leaving behind a legacy, right? So, although in my mind is faith that drives all of this, but I believe that the wisdom here is applicable to everyone, right? It's for all human beings, right? Do good and leave behind good, so that it continues even after you die. Yeah, so I believe that that is a very powerful force, and if all the world's top companies and big techs and startups have that mindset, I'm pretty sure the world will be in a much better situation today.
Yes, absolutely agree. And this is the reason why I love so much behavioral science and behavioral engineering. Because to me, if you are able to bring culture, faith, religions to the concept of these are influencers that are nudging you in a direction how you behave, then you start to have a lot of replies about the why that we were discussing before. Because then you understand why one person did something, why one organization did something. And this is where I help people and organizations to understand, are you creating incongruence between your ethical values and principle, so religion, culture, and so whatsoever, versus how you are behaving as human being and as an organization. And then you start to see how a lot of leaders out there, under the pressure of stress, of marketing utopia, and under the pressure of contingencies in life, they regret what they are doing. And I believe that this is an important part why leaders, they need active coaching, why leaders, they need to be sustained in taking the right decision that won't harm their organization, the people inside the organization, the mission itself of the organization. For instance, Blockbuster doesn't exist anymore. If they would have embraced a different kind of business model, would they be here? Would they people be still employed instead of got on the market one day from another because they shut the shops? So the responsibility of their leadership to do this failure, how this leadership are living now, this regret. So this is why I believe coaching is mandatory in modern organization. What is your takeaway about coaching?
Coaching. So I myself never really went through coaching, but Alhamdulillah, I mean, along the way I had, thanks to God, I have a lot of very good mentors that I learned from along the way. But today, I believe that coaching is a very powerful and very important thing to do for many leaders, right? Um, you know, it, I was lucky, I was blessed that I had good people around me, and I learned from good people. But if I had met the wrong people and learned from the wrong people along the way and made mistakes and went off track, then things would have turned out bad. So coaching, I feel, is very valuable. And today I spend a lot of time talking to founders, and I realize that sometimes important foundational things people don't realize, you know, or they don't know. So coaching can really help you to have a deeper understanding of things, and to have a much more strategic view of what's going on around you. When a founder, or in this case a startup founder, is very very focused on their business, their heads are down, they're working on the business every day, humanity is such that your mind starts to get a little bit narrow, right? You need, as a leader, you need to be on top of the business. You need to be above the business. You need to see what's happening around the business as well, right? So that's where providing coaching to founders, I think, is something very valuable and adds a lot of value to the founders. It goes back to also, of course, having good coaches, right?
Yes, but the hilarious part here, one of the power tool of a good coach is indeed the ability to go through the 5 layers of asking why to a coaches. That is one of the root elements of the model that you have about ethical investment. So unintentionally, probably, your model is based on coaching. So this is really beautiful because shows how coaching is by definition a gentle nudge, let me say probably ethical persuasion, that helps people to understand with your ethical principles what is good for you to do in order to achieve what you are looking to do. And this is really amazing because then opens up another intriguing aspect that I would love to understand with your venture studios, because AI is showing that the digital disruption start to have a speed that is not anymore 1 decade, but start to become even less than 5 years. Because we have so the agile, then DevOps, and then the cloud, and all the other stuff related to infrastructure as code, and minimizing cost of cloud native organizations, code, no code, all this kind of revolution on software. And then suddenly, snap of a finger, AI came, people start to chat with a chat, and in the last 2 years, everything changed on the field. This is a super speed that no other industry is suffering as growth of the employees that we have in an organization. How do you help the people inside the venture studio and inside your portfolio to keep up with the digital disruption that is out there?
I think one thing that I tell people a lot about is the AI world changes so fast, and he has come so, in a sense, so suddenly. I mean, AI has been around for a long time, right? But not the way it has in the past 2 years, 1.5 years. So the reality is, while definitely there are some, experts out there who are really, really top of their game, but most of the people are learning as we go. Even the experts are learning as we go. So sometimes founders, especially the non-technical founders, they have a bit of a mental block where they're like, "Oh, I'm not a technical guy, so AI is so advanced, although it's easy to use." They may feel that they're not able to, or they're not ready to jump in and try, and that is where it's very dangerous, I would say, because everybody is learning AI. The guy beside you who's acting like an expert, he's also learning it as he goes, right? So even though you are not an expert, you can learn it because the whole world is learning it at the same time, right? So that's one thing that I like to share with those who are non-technical, especially because they tend to feel that they are being left out, or they have to find some AI expert, they have to employ some AI people, and so on. But I feel that AI is something that has democratized startups. It has opened up, possibilities to non-technical people as well, right? So at the end of the day, for non-technical people, especially, even for technical people, it's just to get exposed and get involved, right? You don't have to be at the forefront of everything. You don't have to try every new tool, every new update. It's just too many, right? You have to run a business. You have to feed your family. You have to do your responsibilities. But at a minimum, listen to good podcasts like this one, and pick up side projects. Work with some friends, explore how AI works. Try and implement it in your own life. Make time to be part of it, even though you may not be so deep into it. Yeah, because if you don't, then in your mind you can get further and further away from it. Right? But the more you get involved in it, the more you get more comfortable with it. And as we know, also one danger with one challenge with AI is that um, you know those big AI firms can just roll out something and cancel many startups. Right? For example, note-taking startups. Now Google Meet has it. So all these other note-taking startups that were there, they were growing very fast. Now suddenly they cannot compete with Google, right? So yeah, I think my point here is to keep getting involved, to keep trying. Sometimes you really don't know what will happen next, what will be the next trend, what will work, what is defensible in the market or has value in the market. It's very difficult to predict these things, and that's why you have to be involved.
You have unwrapped a lot of elements here. I need to shuffle them up because for sure there is the aspect of casual learner that you have touched. There is the aspect of the expert that claims to be an expert was the guy that until 2 weeks ago was knowing nothing and now because knows a little bit about something more than you, it behaves like an expert. So there is the imposter syndrome as well. And there is the concept of real learning when there is technology disruption. So let me start from this one because I guess it's the easiest one. There was time ago a gorgeous book, Anticipatory Organization from Daniel Spur, and this book was predicting how technology will create disruption. And organization will be almost of two types. Or you create the disruption, so you are the digital disruptor, or you have to chase it. But if you chase it as a casual learner, then you inject the syndrome of imposters, where at the end you get the skill set in your organization that instead of growing with the technology is going to a plateau of mediocrity. Everybody behaves with the apparent of being knowledgeable on the matters, but it's a knowledge by reading, not by doing. So it's not mastery. And this is a pattern that we have observed in the larger majority of organizations. And indeed, we have done a lot of screening in hiring to help elite organizations to find the right candidates. And if we go to software development, for instance, the ability to find a good candidate is very low. We are talking that people that are socially and technically equipped to work in an elite organization are around 1%. So only 1% they can behave like a real software engineer. That means the probability to get one hire in a startup organization is very low. And this is one aspect that we were discussing around why casual learning needs to be replaced with continuous active learning with systems like the Dojo. And this is an intriguing aspect because we have understood that this way of helping organizations to let their people grow is strictly correlated with disengagement and burnout. What is your experience about having an ethical fund that is growing a purpose-driven organization with the disruption out there of disengagement and burnout?
Right. Now, this topic of burnout is, for me personally, a tricky topic. Um, Mainly because personally, as an entrepreneur for so many years, I have found a way to have a balance, and more or less, I work a lot. I spend a lot of time working, and I don't really have signs of burnout, right? So I don't really understand burnout on a personal level because I don't burn out in general, right? So there's a little bit of a challenge for me when I try to understand what's happening to others.
Yeah, I
So,
get the point.
but burnout is real, right? Yeah. But burnout is real, right? There are people, I guess a lot of people who do have challenges with burning out. For us, it's really about the relationship between the leaders and the people that we are leading, where the the compassion and the again, the human relationship, we try to keep it real, right? I'm not just your superior, your boss, manager, right? I'm here to lead you because that's my responsibility, and my responsibility is to help you to perform as best as you can. And as part of performing as best as you can in a healthy way, is for you to also have maybe not happiness, but a level of fulfillment. I prefer to focus on fulfillment over happiness, right? Because the concept of happiness tends to be temporary. We're happy for a while, we laugh for a while, then we go back to whatever state we're in. So happiness is sort of temporary. I think the modern world today hypes up happiness too much. It's about being content. Content means being content and fulfilled. You know that you are working on something and you're working on something meaningful, and at the same time you must have a degree of balance with other commitments in your life, right? Other stakeholders in your life, your family and your own personal self. So the trickier part nowadays is the younger people, the Gen Zs and so on. Their mindset is quite different. And being an older person, sometimes the old mindset will creep in, where a job is a job, you work because you have to, and so on, right? Whereas the younger generation, they are looking for fulfillment. I see that, I feel that, right? So I feel it's actually an opportunity that we can help these younger people find balance in their life so that they don't have this burnout issue by creating more fulfillment and more real human relationships between them and their peers. So that's what we do, and that's our experience. It's really about, I would say, being friends, even sort of having a feeling of family in your family, in your company. But family here cannot be, the family that ignores the bad sheep in the family or hides things from each other and stuff. It's a healthy family, right? Not dysfunctional family. Yeah.
I love your point because it's indeed echoing a lot of discovery I've done in my research, observing in contrast the West culture and the East culture, especially the culture from Japan, due to my love with judo and jiu-jitsu since I was a kid. And if I have to compare the two, they are really, really different because, as you say, that a lot of people they are looking for happiness, but in my opinion, from what I understood, in my smaller way of seeing the world, happiness is depending from external factors, so you are not in control of it. That is more related to a capitalist mindset, so you purchase happiness. And we know the paradox of Rostar that they are not able to get older than 26 years old. Okay, so the purchase happiness, it seems that doesn't work as a formula. So if I look instead of the world as a martial art instructor and a passionate of Buddhism and spirituality in general, is something a lot deeper. And I love the point that you say the fulfillment. I also tell my coaches typically to research enjoyment. And if they connect enjoyment that is personal with enjoyment with others, that is the sharing of their gratitude towards you, they found what you said is indeed a fulfillment. That is a beautiful formula if you apply in an organization. That again, it shows how human-centric is your relation with the people that you are investing with. And I really love it, Umar.
Yeah, and it's not easy, right? It's a conscious, consistent effort, because not everybody is naturally a people's person, right? Not every team member wants to get to know me as a person, right? There are those who just box up work as work. It is professional, not family, not personal. It's all different, right? But I feel this is where that human centric approach comes in. And that's where you build a true company of people that want to work together. Because if you're just working because this is my job scope, then there's a limit to, again, the contentment, as well as the limit to what you're able and willing to do that doesn't feel like a compromise. That means I'm willing to do more because I want to, not because I want to show off to my manager so that I can get a promotion, right? Or not because I feel that I'm forced to. If not, my job is at risk, right? You do it because you want to. So when that switch is flipped, that you're doing it because you love the company, you want to build the company, you subscribe to the mission, you respect the founders, the leaders because they treat you well. Then that whole approach becomes much more harmonious. There's a lot more, I would say, calmness in the people. There's a lot more trust that is developed, and these are all very positive things when you build an organization.
Yes, the safe space is indeed the key ingredient to have an healthy organization, or what you were saying before, an healthy family, so not a dysfunctional one. Because to be dysfunctional is really simple. You need only to trigger the reptilian brain of somebody in an organization. They will start to behave not anymore as before, so as a standardized human being, but as a reptilian brain, so they will start to behave for survivability. And then the pattern change, because the others, they are not switching in survival mode. They are switching in collaboration mode. And so this is how a simple dysfunction built on fear is destroying organization slowly over time. And is a key component of why leadership, they are in demand of coaching, because indeed, as you say, not everybody is a people person. Not everybody can understand these tiny details on compassion, empathy, behavioral psychology, emotional trauma. So also a stuff that I saw that is not anymore a problem to discuss, but is not yet, unfortunately, something that is talked to our future leader, is about change management in a human-driven way. So how can we help people to embrace a change without creating a big emotional trauma in the process? And this is a theme, for instance, that I don't see at the university. And this is something that I see the academic world a lot short in. They are short to equip people with the latest technology, but they are even short to equip people with the ethic and compassion that this Gen Z, they are finally building by their own, because they are not anymore interested to work for something that is not aligned with their purpose. I see this as a good indicator that soon will be a generational switch. Do you observe this in your organization working with young people? As you see from the color of my beard, I'm 50 plus, so I cannot say that my generation did a good work. Indeed, I cannot say no. They did an awful work.
Yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of young people. I'm impressed with a lot of young people. Um, I think the part that we're talking about here is very relevant in terms of fulfillment and so on, right? Maybe I'll just touch on what I think is an area. Of course, we're generalizing, right? Everybody is different. People from different countries, different regions are different. But in general, the younger generation today, while it's definitely a plus point that they're looking for more meaning in life and so on, and that reflects in the work they do and the opportunities they go for. But then it's very important to ground them in the principles of, in the Islamic space we call it amana, which is the responsibility that you have. There is a responsibility beyond just contracts and so on, right? And that goes back to the human-centric discussion we were having earlier. So sometimes there is a lack of appreciation of how why others are different, why there are different ways of doing things, why there are differing opinions, why things are stuck in a certain way or spoiled in a certain way, and young people can get impatient or they don't want to try to understand. They're like, this is nonsense, then they'll just you know go away and do something else, or they'll just drop it, right? They say, oh, this is nonsense, I don't like it, or this is against what I think should be the way, and they just cut off, right? But you can't always just do that, or you should not always just do that. Just ignore or sort of run from things you don't like, because it goes back to the understanding that there are other people with other ways of doing things, other approaches, other mindsets, and there is a responsibility for that individual, the Gen Z or the young individual, to try to also understand the other side, right? It's not just the individual self that person is responsible to. That person is also responsible to the organization, to other people around them, right? So I do see that sometimes the younger generation, they have a bit of struggle in this way when there are especially people of different age groups around them, and they tend to think more individualistic, I guess. That's one way of putting it.
Yes, that is why I love so much the concept of equipping venture studios or anyway venture capitalists with what I call the operating system of organization. That is the concept of the community of practice. So creating a community inside the organization that is letting them growing as people rather than purely seeing them in an HR system that they need to grow as career, because there is no career with ugly people. So is the concept of we create good people, connecting them together, align them to a shared purpose, equipping them with techniques like the Dojo, for instance, to continuous active learning with neuroscience and behavioral psychology to upskill them to stay top notch with the skills they need to master the field of IT, the field of engineering, the field of whatsoever you have in an organization. And then when you equip them with good people, good behaviors, good social contracts to be respectful, empathic, and compassionate, with the superpower of mastering their art, then with the right purpose, the organization is striving to be not a magic unicorns, because there is nothing magic there, because it's what's engineered. So have we found the formula of the engineered camel? Not a biomechanical one, but something that is more toward the real tangible camel as a super organization.
Yeah, not yet. I mean, we have some positive developments and so on, right? But it's a learning journey. It's a learning process. HasanVC itself is quite new. The disruption in the VC world is quite new. A lot of things are new, right? So there's a lot to figure out. There's a lot to work on, and I believe it's a journey, right? It's a journey to continuous improvement, continuous refinement. How best do we develop and support and guide and invest in as many good Camel startups as possible, with as many good people as possible? How do we create a system that will continuously evolve to become better and better, and continue to sustain even when I'm no longer around, when the founders are no longer here. So, one thing for sure in HasanVC is when we started, we told ourselves, whatever we built, we want to share it. Whatever we built, we want to duplicate it. We're not building it for ourselves, right? Because we saw that need, right? The need to have more ethical, more human-centric, more people-powered venture capital. And as I mentioned also from our spiritual perspective, something that's also halal, that Muslims can be included in, right? It doesn't exclude this, it just includes practicing Muslims, right? So yeah, we don't have the formula. We are figuring out the formula, working on the formula, and I think the formula will continue to change as the world continues to change.
Yes, it's a continuous adaptation. And so let's work on this formula together. I guess a lot of the listener here will be more than happy to work with you and Hasan Capital Venture to create the formula, to improve it. Do you have anything else that you want to share with the audience? Any suggestion, any call to action to help you in this research? For sure, on our side, we will put all of what you have to help you in this research, but the listeners out there are thousands. So if you have anything that you want to share with them, do please.
Sure. Maybe my point here is about because of the way the world has changed and will continue to change. Um, I feel that for the masses, right, the people, um, we have a very good opportunity and I would say a responsibility to stand up in terms of entrepreneurship and in terms of supporting entrepreneurship. So for those who have the capacity and the interest to become entrepreneurs, we should actively try to become entrepreneurs and do more entrepreneurship and build more solutions, build more things that help people, that bring benefit to others. For those who may not be in a position to, become an entrepreneur or to try out entrepreneurship, then they should support. Support in terms of being a customer, being an investor, being a supporter, because the world today is dominated by the big corporates. The big corporates we know are not looking out for the interests of humanity, most of them at least. And now the big techs are there, and the big AIs are there. And if you're not careful, they can control everything. They already control a lot of things. So we need to pull back some autonomy and some power to ourselves for the masses, for people, right, for humanity, and that can only come through grassroots entrepreneurship. Yeah, and today the time is right. The time is right. In fact, it's quite urgent for us to have more grassroots entrepreneurship, and it's never been easier in that sense.
No, and your point is also sustained by what Professor Varoufakis is showing in his latest book, Techno-Feudalism. These gigantic corporations are creating an evolution of capitalism that we, as creators of new organization, we need to be aware of, because we have then the opportunity with awareness to do something different, more ethical, more impactful, more sustainable, more social for everybody. Umar, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure to have you in the podcast. I hope to see you soon. I hope to work with you into the evolution of your venture studio, because there is a lot to be done and then to be narrated and shared with the others, so that we can replicate your formula with other people, helping us in this organization to create a world with new organizations that are looking in a different way, more ethical, more human, more working toward a positive world development for the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate your time and the questions and the opportunity to share.
It was a pleasure. And please, audience, subscribe, smash comments below, and talk to you soon in the next episode.
Thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe to the Forge of Unicorns to stay up to date with our latest episodes.